Welcome back to the deep dive. So today, we're doing something a bit different with InMode's Q3 call. We're skipping the prepared remarks entirely.
Yeah, straight to the good stuff.
Exactly. Our mission here is pure strategic extraction. We're diving straight into that Q&A session from their Q3 2025 earnings call. Forget the boilerplate intro stuff. We want to figure out what analysts from, UBS, Barclays, BTI, what they really pushed management to reveal.
Right, about forward strategy, where they're placing their bets, and importantly, what kind of market hurdles they're actually seeing right now.
Because when you get that back and forth with the analysts, you often get past the polished messaging.
That's the idea. And we're going to synthesize those questions and, more importantly, management's direct answers. Try and build a clear picture of, where the resources are going and why things seem a bit cautious financially in the near term.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the minute the Q&A kicked off, it felt like the focus snapped right to the future. Danielle Antolfi from UBS, she kind of zeroed in on that implied Q4 guidance.
Yeah, the numbers suggested things might slow down a bit at year-end,
Right.
even though Q3 was actually a beat.
Right, and she pushed them, asking about visibility into the 2026 consensus estimates.
And management's response, mostly from the CFO, Yair Malka, was, well, extremely cautious. He basically said, straight out, discussing 2026 guidance, it's a little bit too early. He used the phrase somewhat conservative because of, and this is the key part, all the uncertainties.
All the uncertainty. That's a pretty strong signal, isn't it? That the big picture, the macro stuff, is really steering their financial planning right now.
Absolutely. And they weren't just being vague about those uncertainties either. They pointed to a really specific challenge: the cost of financing capital equipment.
The interest rates. They basically laid it at the Fed's door, partly.
Well, yes and no. They acknowledge the Fed has lowered rates twice, right? 0.5% each time. But, and this is crucial, they emphasize that reduction hasn't actually, trickled down yet.
Yeah.
It's not making capital equipment financing cheaper for the clinics, the doctors buying their machines, at least not meaningfully in the U.S.
That's interesting detail. So U.S. rates are inching down, but it's not helping their customers yet. What about internationally? Is it the same story everywhere?
Yeah, the CEO, Moshe Mizrahy, he jumped in on that, made it clear it's a global issue.
Yeah.
He specifically mentioned Europe rates haven't dropped at all there.
Wow. Okay.
So you got these high leasing rates for new systems pretty much everywhere. And until those costs come down significantly, capital sales are just going to feel that pressure.
So the timeline for any real relief seems kind of out of their hands and delayed. They basically said any meaningful impact, where lower financing costs actually boost sales, might not happen until sometime in 2026.
That's what it sounded like. And only after the U.S. rate cuts potentially lead the way for other regions. They seem to be bracing for this financing friction to stick around well into next year.
Okay, so bracing for friction. If the big equipment sales are tough because of financing, it makes sense they'd focus internally, right? Like on efficiency, strengthening their main markets. Was there a big organizational shift they talked about for North America?
Exactly. If sales are hard to forecast, you double down on making your biggest market run smoothly. They announced Michael Dennison is now president of North America.
Dennison. He's been with InMode a while, hasn't he? And Cynosure before that.
Yeah, over 10 years at InMode, used to be VP East Coast. So deep industry experience there.
And what was the strategy behind that move? Just putting a new person in charge?
No, the CEO explained it was really structural. The main goal was to bring all the U.S. territories and Canada together, quote, under one roof on management.
Consolidation. Centralizing things.
Right, creating a single unified strategy across that whole massive North American market. More streamlined.
Did that consolidation mean, did some existing roles change or disappear?
It did, yeah. Management confirmed that the VP West and the VP Canada roles were eliminated as part of this. So now, North America is basically 7 territories, 6 in the U.S., plus Canada as the 7th, and they all report directly up to Dennison. It's about clearer accountability, it seems.
Makes sense. So that's North America getting streamlined. But internationally, OUS, where are they still putting chips down for direct growth? What's the plan there?
Their international strategy seems active but selective.
Yeah.
Cautious expansion. They just opened a new subsidiary in Argentina.
Argentina. Interesting. Why there?
Well, what's really interesting is that Argentinian office isn't just for Argentina. It's actually managing all their distributors across Latin America now.
Oh, okay. So it's like a regional hub they've set up directly.
Exactly. Using that direct presence to manage the whole region. And they're also expanding efforts in Thailand.
And any other big direct moves planned?
Well, looking further out to 2026, they mentioned potentially going direct in Israel. They called it their home base, obviously. Right now, they use 2 distributors there.
Okay, so a shift planned for Israel in 26.
Yeah, but they were pretty clear. No new direct countries for the rest of this year, 2025. They want to focus on getting Argentina integrated properly and growing things in Thailand first.
Got it. So, cautious on the macro, consolidating in North America, selective expansion OUS. Let's shift to the offense, the product pipeline. The big one everyone seemed interested in was this ophthalmology push with the Envision platform for dry eye.
Yeah, and you can tell how serious they are about it just by the organizational structure they're putting in place. It's a major initiative.
How so?
Starting in 2026, they're completely separating the Envision sales team from the core aesthetic reps.
Really? A whole separate team?
Yep, led by its own dedicated director, focusing only on selling to optometrists and ophthalmologists. They're building out a distinct vertical just for that market.
That's a big commitment. And it sounds like they're not just waiting around for final FDA approval to start making noise.
Not at all. They're already deep into market engagement. They talked about agreements and running workshops with groups like the American Optometrists Association, the AOA. And they specifically said 3 major events focused on this are happening in Q4 of this year, 2025. They're definitely planting the flag early, building awareness.
Okay, but planting the flag is one thing. What's the actual official timeline for getting that FDA dry eye clearance? That seems pretty critical. Did they give specifics?
They did, but with some caveats. They admitted the process is, still ongoing. They're actually still discussing and negotiating the study protocol with the FDA for that specific dry eye indication.
Still negotiating the protocol, so the main study hasn't even started yet.
Apparently not. Safety tests are happening now, though. The timeline they laid out was hope to start the main study early 2026. Submit the results around Q2 2026. And the goal is getting the indication cleared sometime in the second half of 2026.
Second half of 2026. Wow, okay. That's still quite a ways off.
It is a long runway.
So how are they selling Envision now if that key indication is still, potentially a year or more away?
This is where it gets kind of clever, or maybe aggressive, depending how you look at it. They're leveraging the clearances they already have.
How does that work?
Well, the Envision platform uses different hand pieces, right? Specifically, the Lumeka IPL and a bipolar RF handpiece. Both of those are already FDA cleared for other things, aesthetic treatments, skin stuff.
Okay.
So they argue they have strong clinical data showing Envision has a significant competitive advantage over other ways to treat dry eye. They're essentially marketing it based on the cleared components and the existing clinical evidence, even while they pursue that final specific dry eye clearance label.
That's definitely pushing the envelope a bit on positioning. Okay, so Envision is the big ophthalmology bet. What about the core aesthetic side? Any new stuff coming there?
Yep, they confirmed 2 brand new aesthetic lasers are set to launch early in 2026.
Early 26 as well. What kind of lasers?
They didn't give tons of detail, just described them as very complementary to what they already offer.
And when do we see those?
Dual launch planned. First, internally at their U.S. national sales meeting, probably late January 26. Then the big public splash will be at IMCAS in Europe. That's that huge anti-aging congress in early February 26.
Gotcha. And did they also give an update on that men's wellness platform they launched earlier?
They did. It was officially introduced at a big user meeting back in August. Apparently around 800 doctors were there.
Okay. How are they selling that one? Separate team yet?
Not yet. For now, the regular aesthetic sales reps are handling it. But management said they'll look at how the initial sales go and make a call in early 2026 about whether to potentially spin that off into its own dedicated sales team too, kind of like they're doing with Envision.
Interesting. Okay, so lots happening on the product front, despite the macro caution. Let's switch gears slightly to operational stuff, like the sales mix. Minimally invasive is their core, right? Like 75% of revenue.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. But the non-invasive sides, things like diode lasers, IPLs, that saw some weird lumpiness. A big surge in Q2 and a drop back in Q3.
Right, what was that about?
Management explained that the non-invasive segment is really important for them to be that one-stop shop you mentioned, offering tech that complements the main platforms their customers buy.
Okay.
That Q2 spike wasn't some random fluctuation. It was tied directly to launching 2 specific new non-invasive products earlier in the year, a CO2 platform and that men's health platform we just talked about.
So it was like initial stocking orders, pent-up demand from clinics waiting for those?
Exactly. Big initial orders hitting in Q2 as those launched. Not really a fundamental shift away from minimally invasive overall.
Got it. That makes sense. And finally, the ultimate health check, maybe. consumables, the recurring revenue bit. How's that looking?
That looked really solid. It's probably the best indicator that even if buying new machines is tough due to financing, the procedures are still happening.
Did they give a number?
Yeah, hard number.
Yeah.
In Q3 2025, they sold roughly 230,000 disposable tips.
230,000, wow. And how does that compare?
It was a sequential increase from Q2. So utilization seems strong. Adoption across the machines they already have out there is holding up, maybe even growing.
Okay, so that's a positive sign underneath the cautious outlook.
Yeah, and that really highlights the core tension here, doesn't it? You've got this very conservative, short-term financial view, mostly because of macro stuff like interest rates hurting equipment financing.
Right.
But balancing that out, you have these aggressive long-term strategic moves. They're restructuring North America for efficiency. They're making this huge organizational bet on ophthalmology with Envision, plus launching 2 new aesthetic platforms early next year.
So they're kind of hunkering down financially for the short term, but investing heavily to be ready for liftoff later.
Exactly. Investing now to position themselves for, hopefully, a big acceleration starting maybe late 2026, especially if that interest rate environment finally eases up globally.
So what does this all mean?
Well, it leads to maybe the most critical factor to watch, especially that big Envision bet and the long wait for the final dry eye clearance. The real question for you listening is, how much momentum can that new, separate Envision sales team actually build over the next, say, 12 months?
Before they get the final FDA nod, you mean?
Exactly. Relying just on the existing handpiece clearances and the clinical data they have now, their ability to really generate buzz and initial fails before getting that final indication, that could determine if this massive organizational gamble really pays off when the clearance eventually arrives. That's the key thing to watch in this space.